This is no one from nowhere, and I am and you are a Spirit of God. Today I want to talk to you about Jack Johnson, the champion of all champions, and how I believe that he was set up by an all-white jury for his race because he married 4 white women, and he also beat many white men. First, a quote by President Donald Trump. Silvester Stallone called me with the story of heavyweight boxing champion Jack Johnson, Trump wrote on Twitter. I also want to tell you that Mike Tyson tried the same as Silvester Stallone did with Obama, but failed. First, a quote from NLT, Psalms 103:6. The Lord performs righteous deeds and judgment for all who are oppressed. Jack Arthur Johnson, born 1878 to 1946. His nickname was Galveston Giant. He was the first African-American heavyweight in 1910 against the James Jeffers, the champion at that time. It was called the Fight of the Century. His mom and dad was a dishwasher and a janitor, and he said his dad was the most perfect physical specimen that he'd ever seen. 1908, he won the World Heavyweight Championship against Tommy Burns. He reigns 2,151 days, makes it the 3rd longest in a 60-year-old history of all colored heavyweight champions of boxing. December 26, 1908, he went against Thomas Burns. He lasted 14 rounds, and it was stopped in Sydney, Australia by the police because of racial slurs. July 4th, 1910, he fought the fight of the century with the Great White Hope, James Jeffers, he was called, and there was no alcohol, no guns at the fight of 20,000 people because of racism. And Jeffers, the Great White Hope, threw in the towel. 1920, he owned a club in Harlem, and he sold it to a gangster, Mr. Madden, who renamed it the Cotton Club. 1943, while in Los Angeles, California, he professed his faith in Jesus Christ. He was married 7 times, and 4 of the women were white. 1912, Lucille Cameron, she was an alleged prostitute that he was with when he got convicted of the Mann Act, and her mother swore that her daughter, Lucille Cameron, was a crazy woman. And he was convicted by an all-white jury, and he skipped bail and left the country to Mexico, but he surrendered and served 1 year and 1 day in Leavenworth. His last fight was at the age of 67 years old. This guy was amazing, and he was included in the Hall of Fame of Boxing in 1954. As a side note, Mahamad Ali was greatly influenced by this man, as well as many others, I'm sure. Miles Davis' film, 1971, An Attribute to Jack Johnson, put it the best way, in my opinion. He states, "I am Jack Johnson, heavyweight champion of the world. I am black. They never let me forget that. I am black, all right, and I'll never let them forget that." In 1946 in North Carolina, he was leaving pissed off from a restaurant because they would not serve him, and he died in a car accident. Racism and oppression has beginning since the dawn of time. To Israelites in Egypt, to Nazis in Germany, the Indians, the blacks, Chinese, all races, including drugs and alcohol. Psalm 10:12. Arise, O Lord, O God, lift up your mighty hand. Do not forget the afflicted. I love you, and so does God, and so does President Trump, and so does Silvester Stallone, Mike Tyson, and this man deserves the love that he gave the world. You are, and I am, a Spirit of God. Amen.